Welcome to the Legacy Crusaders YouTube channel. This is Benji, and today I'm going to talk about my experience at YCS New Jersey, which was in Secaucus. I played this deck. It is a variant of Justin Singh's top 16 Spiral Power Tool Dragon deck, and the truth is, it was a bad choice for me to play, not because the deck is bad. The truth is, I didn't take the time to really study up and understand the Power Tool combo, so you can look that up on his channel, Rempangu Nation. But I wanted to talk about a card I ran in my side deck, which is kind of a goofy card, and whether or not you should play it is entirely up to you. So let's take a look. So this card is Firecracker. Firecracker is a common from a set not long ago. It says during either player's turn, you can discard this card, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent, and if you do, skip your next draw phase. You can only use this effect of Firecracker once per turn, and the other effect is not really relevant for what it was using it for. So I played Firecracker in my side deck because I'm not used to playing cherries. I haven't used cherries, but cherries was on his deck list, and it just wasn't something I decided to play. But my goal was to have a card I can play in time in Game 3, knowing my opponent was going to go first, and I could potentially lose by burn. So my goal was to have a card I could use to take a life point lead against my opponent going into time. And I've heard some stories about at YCS Secaucus from some of my opponents. A Trickstar player said his opponent was complaining that he was cheating him, even though his opponent was a Goki player who took 35 minutes to play out his first turn. So by the time his turn went through, he actually won a game in time playing Trickstar really quickly. So his opponent kind of tried to set him up to give him no time, but then he wound up costing himself the match. So the time rules are actually, I found not to be such a big deal, with the exception if you or your opponent actually just take too long to make your moves, and the truth is that happens from not knowing your deck, and I was playing a Spiral deck I'm not really familiar with, so I took a little longer with plays than I should have, but only by a little bit. For the most part, I know what all my cards do. I don't have to ask my opponent what all of their cards do. It shocks me how much people don't know what each other's cards do, but this card came up in round 5 in game 3 against a Trickstar player, where my opponent went first. I opened 2 of this card. He set up a board where I was going to take burn damage and lose. I opened Typhoon and 2 Firecrackers, so I Typhooned his late stage, and then I Firecrackered in his end phase, and then I Firecrackered in my draw phase, so now I couldn't even lose to Reincarnation, but it's a little sad when you can lose a game in time to drawing a card because of Trickstars, or it was unfortunate for him that he had to lose because I played this goofy burn card. Do I think anyone should play this card? I don't know. If currently Sky Striker with Trickstars seems to be the best deck, it might be sensible to have some sort of counter to burn, or at the least just play a better deck that can potentially win in the earlier parts of time. So yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. There'll be a video going up probably later in the week. I'm going to try and get a hold of my friend Jonathan, who made top 8 playing Gokis. You can see his previous top list from ARG Hartford in the video here. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to do something. I haven't done a video in a week. I know we have a lot of new subscribers. It's hard to do videos on specific scenarios, but this isn't one I figured might be worth discussing. Firecracker, by comparison to other cards that do little bits of burn, like I heard there were actually players playing Okazi in their side deck. Okazi is, of course, one of the oldest burn spells in the game. It says inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent. It's a normal spell you can only play in your main phase, so it's obviously not as good as Poison of the Old Man, which I would say is probably the second best card you can play for this particular purpose. Poison of the Old Man says you can either burn your opponent for 800 or you can gain 1200. Now, gaining for 1200 is the important part of that card, because it means if your opponent's siding Firecracker for the sake of burning you for 1000, you can take back the life point lead with Poison of the Old Man. Unfortunately, Poison of the Old Man is a card you can only play during your turn, so if your opponent sets you up where they Firecracker you, and in their turn trying to get you to take your turn, at least if you have it, you could use Poison of the Old Man to help you, or if your opponent's silly enough to try and burn you for 8 instead of gain 12, you can beat them back with Firecracker. It's a silly scenario. These are silly cards that people could play for the sake of not auto-losing or auto-winning in Game 3 of duels. I figured it was something that would be interesting to talk about, but there's definitely no reason to be playing cards like Sparks or Okazi or what is it, Fireball, those classic Yugi starter deck and Kaiba starter deck burn cards that are just power crept by better burn cards. I think Firecracker's the best because it's quick play. Unfortunately, it is weak to Call by the Grave. You can play it on either player's turn, so as long as you draw it, you can play it. It just skips your draw phase, so if you are against Trickstar, you won't take burn damage for drawing, although you could get hit with Reincarnation. if you have quick play cards, you can try and empty your hand and limit that from being a reason you lose. Anyways, that's going to wrap up this video, small little tournament result. I did a little bit of recording of vlog stuff, but it was so little, it wasn't good enough to put together. Saw a couple of YouTubers at the event, didn't really say much to them. Saw Davinator, just told him about how I like his series of set reviews of the old classic Yu-Gi-Oh sets, all the major main sets. Saw DZ, saw him doing a feature match in the VIP area. The VIP area is really nice. The idea is if you win the VIP qualifiers at your locals prior to the event, you get a 2-round bye, and you don't have to pay entry. And there's a separate area in the venue where your duels all take place, and at all times you're dueling at the same seat for the entire day, at table like 1000, and your opponents who you're paired with are brought to you. And same area where they do the feature match coverage, and it was unfortunate they didn't do a stream. I actually wasn't sure they were doing any feature match coverage until I saw it was a table that only had one pair of duelists and a judge watching a little more intently. And I didn't really notice in the earlier rounds, but I noticed later on. Anyways, that's going to wrap this up. I know it's just kind of rambling, but yeah, stay tuned for top 8 Go keys from YCS Secaucus.